Hello everybody. Today I want to talk about the real General Tso's chicken. And when I first went to a Chinese restaurant in the US, everybody was ordering the General Tso's chicken. And then I ordered one of this kind of chicken too. And that was a dish of deep fried chicken with super sweet sauce. Even every American friend of mine told me that this is a kind of a typical Chinese food. But I still could not believe it. After I researched on the internet, I found that General Tso's chicken is actually exist in the China, but in a very different kind of a taste, different name, and different cooking ways. After studying and living in the US, I realized that cultural differences make Chinese food in the US differ from the real Chinese food which I was eating every single day in China. Um, General Tso's chicken is a kind of a typical food which I usually eat in daily life in China actually. And this dish of food is actually from Hunan province. Uh, but the original General Tso's chicken actually have a totally different name, material, and cooking techniques. The real name of the General Tso's chicken is 糖醋里脊, and the main material of this dish are pork, not chicken. And the traditional cooking techniques are more complex than just deep frying and putting super sweet sauce on it. First, we have to make the pork filling with mixture of flour and raw eggs. Then we just fry those pork for just a couple of minutes. And next, we steam fry the pork, and we add some vinegar, sugar, salt, oyster oil, green onion, and a hot pepper. The original General Tso's chicken is really spicy actually, and it's also a little bit sweet, a kind of a sour, and there is a kind of a special taste, which I cannot really describe it. Even the taste of General Tso's chicken in the US totally differ from the original one in China, but we can see the success of the General Tso's chicken in the US still push me to find out the history of the American Chinese food. The general history of original General Tso's chicken is also different from the history of American General Tso's chicken. For the history of original General Tso's chicken, like General Tso's chicken is named for 左宗棠. He's a formidable 19th century general who is said to have enjoyed eating this kind of chicken. He was born in 1812 in Xi'an County, Hunan Province, and died in 1885 after a civil war. And there is also another kind of thing like the Hunanese have a strong military tradition, and General Tso is one of their best known historian general. But although many Chinese dishes are named after famous person, but there is no record of any dishes named after General Tso in the classical text on Hunanese food or cooking. So these kind of stories describe the origin of General Tso's chicken, accepted by most of the Chinese people. But since nobody wants to judge with the reliability of these stories, the original General Tso's chicken has been one of the most popular food on people's daily diet. On the other hand, the history of the American General Tso's chicken seems more actual, with food cheese scene. she said. Peng Changgui, who was a chief in his own right, he invented the General Tso's chicken with the theory of the traditional Hunan food. And at the end of the 1950s, Peng went to New York, and where he opened the first restaurant on the 44th Street. At that time, Hunan food was unknown in the United States, and it wasn't until he adjusted the way of cooking. So the American General Tso's chicken is actually invented by a Chinese, but the adjustment from the after chief in the U.S. make the original dish much more sweeter and deeper fried. Even the General Tso's chicken is invented by an actual Chinese person, but the culture became one of the most important causes to change the entire taste of the General Tso's chicken. The taste, cooking techniques, material, and history between Chinese General Tso's chicken and American General Tso's chicken are totally different. And the cultural differences are only one thing that a tasty dish could become such a kind of a heavy and deep fried chicken. Not only in food, this kind of forced change could also happen in the way how foreign people live. Even we cannot simply tell that if the changes are necessary or successful, but the adjustment of all the minority groups could always bring benefits. Thank you. That's it.